Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. I said I'd do another quick video if something happened. Something certainly happened. And it looks good, no? Honestly. Whew, what an evening. What an evening. Social media, Spurs fandom on Twitter especially, or X as we're meant to call it nowadays, it was losing its mind. It was absolutely crazy on there. And do you know what? I'd written this piece to go in the morning all about Radu Dragusin, kind of, obviously this was before Bayern Munich kind of decided, hey, we're going to hijack now, guys. And it was like, oh, I can't actually hit schedule on this to kind of go in the morning because what if everything changes overnight? So I had this really awkward kind of 12 hours, 10 hours or so when I was like, I'm just going to have to go to sleep and see what happens in the morning. And praise the Lord, we woke up in the morning and yeah, my phone had kind of been going crazy, like little bits and pieces of information, this and that. And of course, we got the news that Radu Dragusin had decided that the Ange Postecoglou Tottenham Hotspur project was more important to him than Bayern's late move and what sounds like a hefty wad of cash each week thrown his way. Sounds like they more than were doubling the salary on offer from Spurs. So that's, you know, and it's quite funny, isn't it? Because you look at some of the people, and I understand where it comes from, because I guess I would be of a similar kind of vein of thought or train of thought that, you know, if he doesn't want to come to Spurs, stuff him. Wow, did he show he wants to come to Spurs? You know, how many 21-year-olds, I certainly think back to myself as a 21-year-old, would I have turned down, you know, double the money and big money? And I know people say, oh, but they earn enough as it is. But that's a big decision for a young footballer with family and all of that around him that obviously he may well provide for them. I don't know what the family situation is there. But to turn down a huge amount of money each week for a very reasonable amount of money per week, don't get me wrong. But, you know, that's a... And also, let's be honest, Bayern Munich, Champions League team, they got a rather decent striker there as well, who'd be quite fun to play with, I'd imagine, in the same team as. So fair play. You know, if you're going to show how much you want to join a club, that's the way to do it. And obviously, I think there's a point of integrity about it as well. You know, having agreed terms with Spurs to then stick with them even through the late kind of bid from Bayern. I saw some people kind of having a bit of a pop at Spurs for like the amount of time, things like that, allowing Bayern to get into the race. Personally, from the way I understood it, I think it was always going to be about like the Luis Diaz situation, whereas Bayern were just waiting to see whether Spurs had a bid agreed and then they were going to come in and try their luck. And to be honest, it's January the 10th and, you know, the deal's it's either going to be completely sealed tonight or morning, whatever it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be done. I'm always going to say it looks like because it's Tottenham and you just never, ever know. But it certainly feels like we're hopefully at the point of no return now. Please don't return, Radu. So I think it's Radu Dragusin, someone that told me. I saw a very good tweet someone did. I can't remember who it was. Dragu. Oh yeah, it was Ivan Drago and Charlie Sheen or something. It was very clever. It's a very good tweet. So I'm going to go with that. And I actually think I also saw someone with Romanian heritage talk about it on Twitter. So Radu Dragusin, I've got to get my head around that, having called him a completely different name all this time, and I will continue to do in this video. I'm sorry. Notice I've always gone for a high neck this time to prevent the unsettling amount of chest hair that was on display in the last video. So yeah, the fee, believed to be around 21.5 million, I think it is, with another 4.3 or so in add-ons. If they're funny numbers, it's because obviously they're in euros. I think it's 25 million euros with another 5 million euros on top in add-ons, which from the sounds of it are quite easy to achieve. And of course, Jed Spence heading the other way to Genoa on loan. And it kind of shows, I think, his situation right now that from it sounds like that Spurs are going to be paying all of the wages for him. That was certainly the last kind of indication, and Spurs also asking for an option to be put in there, which is quite cheap. I can't remember. I saw the Italian media had that bit of info. I think it was something around maybe 8 million. It's not a lot of. Bearing in mind they bought him for 12 with add-ons that potentially could be 20 in all, as in the whole bundle. So yeah, I think that kind of says a lot. I'm not going to go into Jed Spence situation too much because I kind of spoke about him in the last video, and I don't want to kind of keep hammering away at where he's at in his career. But hopefully this is the move that kind of sparks him back. You know, Genoa play with a back five. He'll play as a wing back. It could be a really good move for him if he kind of learns the lessons of recent years, I guess, and puts it all into this loan move. He was a little bit reluctant, from what I understand, to kind of go into that loan to begin with. But it looks like that's going to happen. And yeah, I really, really hope it works out for him because, as you might have seen, I reported in the week, he'd been no real future at Spurs. He's been sent to train with the under-21s after he'd come back from loan from Leeds after Daniel Farke had ended that loan move early. So, yeah, hopefully just gets him back on track. It's as simple as that. But back to Radu Dragusin. So his very talkative agent, Florin Manea, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think he's got a couple of different kind of representatives. I've got a funny feeling that I think he's also, there's the group that represent Guglielmo Vicario. I think that they've also got something to do with him as well. I can't remember what it's called, something like GG11. I can't remember what it's called now. But it feels like, I think from what I can understand, that Florin Manea has been with him since he first came across from Romania to Italy. And I think it's someone that's very much kind of, how do I put this? Part of his team is the way to put it. But whatever he exactly is, he's a talkative chap. He's a very talkative chap. I think I remember looking back at videos from a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, how he was kind of kept dropping Spurs' name into the conversation. And sometimes agents do that because they're looking to, get a better contract at the club they're at, or they're looking to flush out interest from other parties. But certainly, fair play, it ended up that Radu Dragusin is going. I already said Dragusin, didn't I, in the last one? He's going to be a Tottenham Hotspur player. And yeah, honestly, Florin Manea has been chatting. Spurs will not like, I don't think, how talkative he is. A bit to the Italian media. Mainly, it seems to be back to newspapers in Romania. Obviously, that kind of bond with them from when he was, I say as a young player, he's only 21 now, Dragusin. But yeah, he has pretty much been running a live blog throughout this transfer for everyone to see. I mean, I'm intrigued to see kind of how he's going to be like while Dragusin's a player at Spurs. Yeah, we could get some quite interesting insights. But so he quotes after it had come out that Dragusin had decided against the money of Bayern Munich and obviously the Champions League and all of that to go to Spurs. And he said, I'm intrigued to see what you kind of think about these quotes, whether you take a similar opinion from them as me. He said, he didn't choose the money. There was more at Bayern. He said, this is the right step for his career. It is to be appreciated that he chose his career before money. I don't know how many would have refused the offer we had from Bayern. There were many who did not believe that we were refusing Bayern. I said, this is the right step. There was quite a difference, almost half as much, if not once again. So I know he's suggesting it was 75% higher there. But the amounts don't matter. They were never a priority. We will always choose the steps we believe are correct. I think he weighed in that he always wanted to get to the Premier League. That was something, obviously, I was telling you in recent days and weeks. At one point, Tottenham was a bit far from what Genoa wanted, but I said that if the clubs agree, we will choose Tottenham. If not, it means that God wanted it that way and we go to Bayern. Tottenham made great efforts. The owner and sports director were very happy. They both worked very hard. They worked until 3 a.m. to reach an agreement. Now they want him for 6.5 years. We have a 5.5-year offer. There are still small details to be worked out. 99% we are understood. I think this was this morning as he was flying. There was footage of Dragusin flying across to England, and obviously he's been undergoing all of his medicals and everything today and all of the other bits and bobs they have to do. So a couple of bits from that. I kind of got the sense that maybe he was a bit like, what? Why did you pick them? I mean, it could be being unfair because he did say we quite a few times, and I said that, this is the right step and stuff. But I guess I'm maybe just being cynical because agents... I was about to say agents obviously get a bigger cut with more money and all this sort of stuff. But to be fair, I know quite a few agents who very much it's paramount what's important for their client. So I could be doing a disservice there. Other bits and pieces from that, talking about the owner and sports director are very happy, working very hard, worked until 3 a.m. Obviously, Daniel Levy, you'd imagine, is the owner in that scenario. I'm hoping that's Johan Lang as a sports director, and it wasn't Fabio Paratici sat there doing that. I'm guessing the agent will tell us all this at some point. But I'd assume it's Johan Lang. Certainly, I know we'll talk about this in a moment, there's a link between Paratici, of course, and Radu Dragusin, but Johan Lang has very much been kind of driving the planning for this transfer window with Postecoglou and obviously Rob McKenzie and Frederick Leth. So you would imagine that. Next bit now, they want him for 6.5 years. We have a 5.5 year offer. I'm guessing that's another one of those that we've seen often with Spurs, and you've seen it with Udogie and Pat Matasar, that perhaps then it's a 5.5 year deal with an option for another year on top. Spurs often announce those as the full package, so they'll announce that until the year. What would that be? That would be, if it's 24 we're in now, would that be 2030? My brain's so scrambled today. It's been one of those kind of days. Yeah, 5.5 year. Yeah, that would be. Sorry, 6.5 year. You know what I mean. But yeah, so Ange will love the character of him, like I say, for choosing the project over the money. He'll love the principle element of it. He will love the fact that, they pretty much made up their mind from quite early on. It was quite interesting because it did feel, I know I joked at the start, with the phrase, looks good, no, because obviously the German journalist that did the Harry Kane shirt stunt in, what was that? That was in Thailand, yeah, Bangkok. That was when James Maddison up there as well. And yeah, the German media has been quite, not all of them, but there's been quite a bit of kind of implying or inferring, I never know which of the two that is, that he was leaning towards Germany and that he had, this is Dragusin, had deliberately kind of stalled the negotiations so that Bayern could get their bid in. But by the sounds of all of that, it doesn't really make much sense with what his decision was. So, yeah, it's gone the way of Tottenham Hotspur, and obviously that's terrific news. And this is not, this is not something they just suddenly decided, let's go for him. Obviously, we know they liked Jean-Claire Todibo as well. Yeah, it's Todibo, not Todibo. Haribo, Todibo. Yeah, that's it. That's the way I remember it. It's Haribo. It's the same pronunciation as Haribo. But obviously, I know some people would say, oh, you should have paid them massive money. You're just not going to get him out of Nice right now. They're in a title race. They're, whatever it is, it's 5-6 points behind PSG. You don't lose your best player or one of your best players, one of the brightest young players in Europe at that point in the season. And obviously, Dragusin was another high kind of high potential player on their list. And I can't remember if I've said this before. I've certainly written it in articles before, but from what I understand, while Spurs were beating Nottingham Forest on December the 15th, Johan Lang and Rob McKenzie were out in Italy watching Genoa playing Juventus. Dragusin playing well in a back three for them. And the Italian media, actually interestingly, later claimed that Lang had stayed around and also watched Genoa beat Sassuolo 2-1 a week later. Obviously, the interest in Dragusin has been there for longer. If you haven't heard me say before, of course, Fabio Paratici brought him across from Romania to Juventus when he was just, was it 2018? I think he went into the academy to begin with there. There was interest from clubs across Europe, and Paratici took him in then. Made his debut for Juve in Champions League and Serie A when he was just 19. Andrea Pirlo said of him that first season, he's physically very strong, he's very young and must develop on a technical level, but he will have time to do it, training every day with great champions. They loaned him out to Sampdoria the next season for half the campaign, and then to Salernitana for the remainder of that campaign. But it was the loan season at Genoa where it all kind of started to kick off for him, and obviously they signed him permanently after he played, I think it was every minute of their kind of promotion winning campaign back into Serie A. And yeah, he read a nice little piece that apparently he used to get advice from Juventus lender Giorgio Chiellini, which continued after he'd moved to Genoa. Of course, some have pointed out, it's kind of getting the old gang together again, because he obviously would have been part of that Juventus squad with Kulusevski and Bentancur. There's an image, a photo I've seen of the three of them all quite close together in some kind of group training photo. And yeah, he's a guy that all of the data-led science behind it would have backed up him fitting the Postecoglou system really well. And of course, there are the Paratici links as well. You know, if you're going to use him in a consultancy basis, he's a person that will know that player inside out. So that's a good aspect to that as well. Obviously, 6'3", only 21. He's going to be able to handle the physicality and strength of the Premier League. I don't think that's going to be any issue for him. The high balls into the box as well. He's won. I did these stats a couple of days ago, and I think he has played since. So apologies if they're now slightly out of date, but he has won more aerial duels, 58, than any other centre-back in Serie A this season, and he's ranked second for clearances with 82. Obviously, he's going to have to get used to the style of play, the speed of passing. It's going to be a little bit different from the Genoa team that was more of a deeper lying defence than this high line, but pretty much every person with any knowledge of Italian football seems to be saying, don't worry, he's going to have the pace to deal with a high line. He's going to be absolutely fine with that. And obviously that will be a key part of Spurs' scouting of the player as well. He would have had less possession. They're not a possession-based team, Genoa, but out of their team, he was the player that he was fourth in his team for passes per game. Who scored data shows this 36.7 passes a game. And he had the second best pass success rate of 82.5% for Genoa so far this campaign, not including the last game. He played the other day. I cannot remember for the life of me who he played, but he did. But, you know, like I've said before with Vicario, Postecoglou is very good at seeing past things like that. And the data-based kind of research and scouting as well, that, okay, yes, he plays in a slightly different system, plays in a back three, but we believe that everything else about his game, the trends point towards that he will be absolutely fine in a back four with the Postecoglou system, comfort on the ball. You know, we'll all have by now seen the little compilations, the YouTube compilations and stuff that come out of him pinging these out-of-herald type passes to the diagonals, taking the ball out of defence, scoring that lovely volley he did this season. He's got 2 goals this season. And interestingly, I think he's only got 1 yellow card as well this season. So for a team that, you know, they've had their struggles with discipline, that's not bad at all. And he's got 1 assist as well, I think, as those 2 goals. He is, you know, tackling obviously is superb. He's got a tackle success rate this season of 93.8%, which puts him at the top of Serie A of those players who have attempted 15 or more tackles. And across his 18 league appearances, again, this is 18, I actually might have done this 2 games ago for a piece I did, he's only been dribbled past once. I'm hoping he hasn't in the last couple of games to keep that nice and fresh and relevant. And like I say, he's played in a back three mainly at Genoa, but he's actually played in all of the different positions at some point or another, whether it be on the right or the centre, but he's also played on the left at times. And actually, when he was at Juventus, there was some talk there. He was so comfortable on the ball, they actually might turn him into a right back. So, yeah, he's going to be, hopefully, a very good player for Tottenham Hotspur. And interestingly, another little point to it, he can be registered as an under-21 player, even though he's 21, because the rules say for under-21, if you're not aware, you have your list for the Premier League, you have, and they've got to be in by the close of play on Thursday, February the 1st. It's a 25-man squad. You can't name more than 17 non-homegrown players, and the rest of it must be homegrown, so it's obviously 8. But you can also name an under-21 list. It's technically called a 21 and under, in a way, list, which they don't have to go on the other list. So I think for this season, under-21 players, Guesty wrote a nice piece on this, under-21 players have had to be born on or after January the 1st, 2022 to be able to go on that under-21s list. So, Dragusin, born in Bucharest on February the 3rd, 2002. Oh, that makes me feel so old. But he was. So, yeah, he can be in that under-21s list, which is great. So, I've had people asking, where are we at with the homegrown list? Again, Rob Guest, my partner in crime, does the podcast Golden Guest Talk Tottenham with me, has written a piece all about the homegrown nature of the squad right now. Currently, Timo Werner's arrival yesterday took them one over the 17-man limit because Sergio Reguilon's back as well. But from what I understand, Sergio Reguilon also no future, it seems, at Tottenham Hotspur. So I don't think, even if for some unknown reason he was stuck around, they would probably register him. Although there's obviously... you could lose Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer's not considered a homegrown player, despite the fact he's an England international, because of his formative years in Portugal. Obviously, we'll talk about Eric Dyer in a moment, but you've also got Højbjerg could move. Brian Hill could now move with obviously what's happened with Timo Werner coming in. Potentially, we'll see. I don't think he's desperate to go, Brian Hill, but if an offer comes up and they kind of feel he's not going to get enough game time, I think Fiorentina and Feyenoord among the clubs that I've looked at, I'm sure Sevilla will be interested again in him as well as they often are. You've got here, even Perisic, of course. Perisic, heavily linked with going back to Hajduk Split, which obviously could happen, but they can technically wait until after the English window because the Croatian window is, I can't remember if it's a week or two after the English one it closes. Obviously out injured right now with, I say obviously a lot, someone pointed that out before, I apologise for my obviously. He has that cruciate ligament injury, which Spurs of Postecoglou has already said he doesn't expect him to play again for Spurs, but Hajduk Split looking at potentially bringing him, so maybe even if he's available for the last few weeks of the season, they can get him getting game time and hopefully playing for Croatia at the Euros. So I think that's it. Jed Spence going to Genoa will knock the homegrown numbers back down to 8. They would have had 9 with him there as well. So Dragusin is only on the under-21s list for this season. Next season he'll be classed as a foreign player. If you want to know, just for your own peace of mind or knowledge, Spurs Premier League homegrown players, here they all are. Vicario, Emerson, Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Dyer, Reguilon, Bentancur, Basuma, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, Solomon, Brian Hill, Kulusevski, Perisic, Richarlison, Sonny, and now Werner. They're homegrown players: Fraser Forster, Brandon Austin, Alfie Whiteman. Obviously, you've got 3 goalkeepers there. Ben Davies, Ryan Sessegnon, Oliver Skipp, James Maddison, and Brennan Johnson. And among that under-21s list, the kind of notable ones from the first team, or certainly been involved around the first team setup, Dragusin now, Alfie Dorrington, Destiny Udogie, Pat Matassar, Jamie Donnelly, Dane Scarlett, and Alejo Veliz. Obviously, as I'm recording this, it hasn't actually been announced yet, Dragusin. Number-wise, we'll see. You'd presume number 6, following in the footsteps of Big Dav, Darrington Sandy. You'd imagine for a centre-back, unless he suddenly decides he wants to go for number 2 or 1, or a little bit higher, obviously. Timo Werner, we now know, has taken number 16. So, yeah, you'd imagine 6 makes a lot of sense for him. I'm trying to think. I should have really looked. Give me 1 second. I'll see what he was. Dragusin, shirt number. Sorry, it's one of those things that really should have been in there. He's won a few at different clubs. He has. Well, number 5 is 2. Of course, he has. I've seen so many photos of him. Number 5 during his 2 seasons at Genoa. Obviously, Højbjerg's got that in a moment. Previous clubs, he's won 25, 19, and 37. They're all actually Sessegnon, Mickey van der Ven, and Tanganga at the moment, although he's technically away. So you would imagine number 6 and a fresh start with that number. You'd think. Spurs really pushing to get this deal done. They have been before 12 o'clock on Friday, which looks obviously now like it's going to be well ahead of that. 12 o'clock Friday is the Premier League deadline for any players you would like to play in the weekend's games. So get this done. it means that they can have 2 new signings in their team or squad to play against Old Trafford, Manchester United at Old Trafford. It's January the 10th, and if it's not announced tonight, it'll be January the 11th. That's ridiculous for Tottenham Hotspur. I've said this so many times. They do not do early deals. The earliest they'd done that I could find was Gedson Fernandes. And obviously not a great example, but everything else, I think the majority of their signings in January have actually been deadline day deals. And this is not. These are not. 2 players in early, fair play to the club. They get a lot of flack about not kind of backing players, myself as well, backing managers, myself included, in kind of, the way sometimes they go about things, but they've gone straight out there, and Postecoglou's wanted Timo Werner. That was a player that he was quite instrumental in kind of wanting to bring in. And Dragusin as well, another great fit, that centre-back he's been looking for. And they've got him in within the first 2 weeks of the window. I don't know whether it will come their way, but you'd hope a little bit of credit goes their way. And also shows that getting Johan Lang in there, and obviously you've got Scott Munn working above him as the chief football officer as well, and then Robert Kenzie, Frederick Leth underneath him. Proper planning. It's beautiful. They've actually got it planned, got it ready, so they were able to go as quickly as you can in this market. As I think I said in the last video, they were never going to be able to force Genoa to sell really quickly. Genoa had no rush to sell. They knew Spurs, the pressure was all on them. So to get it done reasonably quickly in terms of transfer window, hey, if they're anything like the summer transfers that we've had under for Postecoglou so far, that he's greenlit or pushed for, whatever you want to call it, it could be a very, very good bit of January business, and potentially, maybe another person through the door as well. So yeah, obviously, it's a strange time for him to come in as well, because it's almost unfortunate timing in a way, but also shows his belief in himself. That, we're talking about the fact that, at one point it's like, it could be him and Ben Davies playing this weekend. We now know Ben Davies obviously out with a hamstring injury, which I'll tell you a little bit more towards the end. But now we know Mickey van der Ven's back, and also so Christian Romero's trying to push to be back in time for this game as well, because obviously after that they got this little mini winter break. But for Dragusin to come in and then have Romero and Van der Ven bang straight there in front of him, fair play. As people have pointed out, at Bayern Munich he could have been 3rd, 4th choice, and at Spurs, yeah, he will come in perhaps as the 3rd choice because Van der Ven and Romero obviously played so well for the rest of the season. But again, we know Romero is going to get the odd suspension. We know both players have had their injury issues now at Spurs. Obviously, Van der Ven just the one. But he's going to be the go-to option in every game, Dragusin. They're going to look to get him on that pitch whenever they can, get him minutes, get him in a team. When there's 2 games in the space of a week or so, they're going to get him in there for one of them. And look, if he plays superbly, he stays in the team. Postecoglou's not going to just play players because of their names. You'd imagine, bearing in mind maybe the right-footed nature, that Romero gets himself suspended again or injured or he's out, and he may have to really have a fight to get back in if Dragusin comes in and plays well. It's competition. That's the great thing about it. That's the most important thing about it. It is competition, and that drives everyone's performances. It's been one area of the pitch where obviously this season they've had to just make do. There's been no kind of real competition there. Ben Davies and Emerson Royale have come in and done a terrific job, both of them. But they are fullbacks trying to play in the middle of the pitch. And now, I'm fascinated to see. You'd imagine if Romero is fit enough, then you go Romero and Van der Ven at Old Trafford rather than have to throw Dragusin in. But actually, Dragusin is probably the fittest, sharpest player out of all 3 centre-backs now because he's been playing regularly for Genoa. Whereas Van der Ven obviously hasn't played a minute yet since that Chelsea game. And Romero obviously has been out for... He's actually come back far sooner, hasn't he, if he is in contention. He's been out for, 2-3 weeks or so. So, he is technically the fittest and sharpest player to come in there. Talking about centre-backs, of course, this now opens the door, if it wasn't already wide open for Eric Dyer to leave. But when I say where it opens the door, potentially Bayern Munich. I know Bayern Munich, obviously, we all know have got a very strong interest in him. I also know that Napoli have got a decent interest in him as well. But you'd think now with Bayern not being able to get Dragusin, they turn their attentions to Eric Dyer, and you just know that Spurs are going, hello, that's not going to cost you nothing. I don't know why they sound like Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello, dear. You Aficionado Doubtfire here, dear. They don't sound like that. I don't think so. That would be really weird if Mrs. Doubtfire was doing the negotiations. Yeah, I've absolutely thrown myself there. That would just, I mean, we're looking at a nominal fee. I've seen talk of maybe 2-3 million or so. But just the fact also getting his wages off the bill. Massive for Spurs. So you'd think now Eric Dyer knows if he didn't before, he is so out of the plans. And so it's on him to go somewhere. And it's, as I said in the last video, would be a great move for all parties. I think it really would work for everyone. So yeah, that's him. Talking of staying on Germans and Germany, not Eric Dyer's German, but you know what I mean. Obviously, Timo Werner was announced. Like I say, 16, he takes number 16. He's on loan to the end of the season with an option to sign him permanently, which is believed to be around 15.5 million, which is an absolute bargain if he does really well, as we hope he will. I still think, and a lot of people think this, I've seen a lot of journalists writing the same thing, feels like he will fit the Postecoglou system better than he fitted in at Chelsea. And I still maintain, you look at the numbers, everyone seems to go on just purely his goals in the Premier League. And I understand why. That's fair enough. That's one way to judge him. But if you look at his goals and assists across all competitions, Chelsea's stats were not bad at all, honestly. They really weren't. And of course, you look across his whole career, this is a man who knows how to either get the ball into the box for others or he knows how to score a goal. He just had a rough couple of years. This year has not been great from this season, admittedly. Had an adductor injury. It's fragmented his season. It hasn't been a terrific one for him. But fresh start. And he spoke really well. There's a really good interview the club did with him that went out. Like I say, Postecoglou pushed for him. He's come up against him in the past. I think Leipzig against Celtic as well in the last couple of years. I feel like he might have even scored against them, as he did against Spurs in the Champions League. Obviously way back. But yeah, some of his quotes from his interview, really good. He said, first of all, very happy to be here. I think I've joined a very, very big club. I talked with the manager and it was a really, really good talk. I think we're going to get that from Dragusin as well, as every manager talks about their Postecoglou chat. He said, he gave me straight away the feeling of what I need to join a club, what I want to feel when you talk to a manager. Also the tactics and the style, how he wants to play, how he lets the team play. For me, I thought straight away that it fits perfectly. And he spoke about the facilities. He said, the new stadium, it's something really, really special to play there. Straight away, I loved it. There were always big, big games to play against Spurs, and now I'm happy to be part of the team and the club. It should be even more special to score for the home team and to have the whole crowd behind you when you score. It's even better, and I'm really looking forward to it. And he spoke about his versatility, which we've spoken about before, the ability to play right across that front three. He said, I hope I can be the best player I can be here. I can play every position up front. That's always good when you can have players that can play in all kinds of positions. We can change also in the game. And I think it makes it even harder for the other team to defend because they never know who's coming and what their position is now. I think that one of my strengths is to be flexible up front and to play in every position. And I thought it was quite fitting. I was like hoping someone would send these quotes next to Dragusin while there still felt this doubt of will he, won't he? Because obviously Werner is coming back from Germany to the Premier League, and the quotes say it all, I don't have to say anymore. When I left the Premier League, you already feel straight away that you missed something because it's the best league in the world. I missed London as well because I really settled in here. I loved England, and when I left I really missed it because it's a great city, it's a great place to be. We're all happy to be here, to be back and to join a new journey here in North London. So yeah, I just would have loved to send that to Dragusin. It doesn't matter now, but just to say, no, Premier League, he's come from the Bundesliga, don't go to the Bundesliga. Yeah, and he spoke about winning stuff. He said, my aim is to come back here, is to fight for another win in this league and also for maybe titles. When I joined my old club, I like the fact he didn't mention their name, I also said I want to be a winner and I want to win titles here. And we won the Champions League. So I think it should not be too bad to say I've come here to also win titles, to win something. when you're already been in the Premier League and you know how much fun it is, and to come now to another great club and to play for them and have a very good kit on. He liked kit. To have the facilities around, I'm really looking forward to this experience to get started tomorrow and meet the guys and have fun with them. So yeah, that's huge for him, because this is a guy, it felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders towards the end of his time at Chelsea. Obviously, high profile kind of misses, people saying it was a flop, and kind of the impression I've got is that he wasn't desperately keen to come back to the Premier League, even though he missed it as a league, because I think he kind of knew it, had that experience still weighing heavily on him. Postecoglou factor. Postecoglou had just spoken to him and gone, no, mate, I'm going to turn you into something special. You're going to show everyone what you were meant to be in the Premier League. And just imagine the way he spoke to him. And yeah, fantastic. Really looking forward to seeing how they both fit in, both Dragusin and Werner. Obviously, we'll have I'd imagine this time, I'm recording this and we're getting towards 9:15 at night. You'd imagine at this point it's going to be in the morning. Spurs don't normally bury new signing announcements. They're probably going to do one as I'm uploading this. But yeah, you'd imagine it's more likely to be tomorrow at this point. But who knows? Maybe midnight announcement just for the markets overseas. I'm trying to think if they've done that. Deadline day is a bit different because you go there, but I'm trying to think. Normally they kind of pop them out the next morning, and I'm back on tomorrow. That's been, yes, of course, the thing. Wednesdays, you've probably heard me say, is normally my day off. I normally have one weekend day off, when the non-game weekend day, and then also normally a Wednesday in the week. So yeah, I did a little bit of work this morning, of course, and obviously it's technically kind of not really work. It's just me having a chat, of course. But yeah, another day off where developments have occurred. Although technically Werner was signed yesterday. I was trying to think if I'd finished work for the day. I'd technically finished work for the day, but it doesn't qualify as a day off to fit that whole narrative. So yeah, really exciting. Obviously it's Tottenham, so there's always going to be a downside. There's always going to be something that's not quite right. As I've said in the past, every time Postecoglou's got a player back, he's lost another. So in this case, got two players in, looks like potentially missing two for a little while, Ben Davies and potentially Lascelles. So we're waiting to hear the latest on him, and presume we'll get that in the press conference on Friday. Ben Davies, from what I understand, I think there may be both hamstring issues. With Ben Davies, from what I understand, potentially 4 to 6 weeks is the kind of time frame they're looking at. But what I would say is Ben Davies is quite a quick healer from previous kind of issues he's had. So I'm sure he as a player will be looking to come back sooner than that. There is the benefit of this little mini break as well, of course. But yeah, the initial kind of time frame seems to be 4 to 6 weeks for him. But yeah, like I'm saying, I'm sure he'll be pushing to come back much sooner than that. I can't remember what it was, but I remember he had... it might have been a hamstring injury under Mourinho, and he came back, I think, a little bit sooner than expected with that. So fingers crossed for him. I mean, the good thing, I say good thing, it's never a good thing for him, but there is the aspect right now, is that there are other centre-backs. There are, at the moment, other full-backs. That would be the weird thing, I guess, for him and Emerson, who've become so important and so crucial and played so well. They will now go back to being the backup right back and the backup left back. It's a very weird situation. But hey, that's a squad, and that's what they do, I guess. So what next in the transfer market? Number 8, we know that's to come. That's what else Postecoglou's looking for. Obviously, we'll be tied in with whether Højbjerg leaves or not. We'll kind of discuss that kind of more length. And the beauty of another time, the beauty of it is now, I think I said this in the last video, Spurs have got the kind of 2 real priority positions done. And the number 8 one, it would be great to have it done, but they can have a little bit more time. And if that is something that's later in the window, if that is even a deadline day signing, then that's fine. And I wouldn't put it past Spurs to maybe kind of look at also, or maybe for this signing, a young player that is sent back on loan, like a doggy, like a Sarr. I know they've been linked with, is it Arthur Vermeeren, young Belgian lad as well. Maybe he's someone that they look to do something like that with. So yeah, that's they are always looking for those kind of deals, especially how well the Udogie and Sarr ones have worked out. It's clear that that's a massive area now for clubs, is that kind of loan back way of doing things. So yeah, keep an eye on those kind of deals as well. And yeah, like I say, press conference Friday with Ange, Friday afternoon, and then the trip to Old Trafford, which is going to be a huge game. But Spurs obviously now so many more options, although Lo Celso's out, which is probably the case. You'd think Kulusevski comes back in. Werner could start if he's fit enough. If you think about it, because Kulusevski comes back into that kind of left-sided role in the midfield three, then maybe Werner, Richarlison and Johnson. There's potential. A lot of pace there, either flank there with Werner and Johnson. Richarlison could do very well out of that. James Maddison appears to be kind of getting there. Unless we get a bit of a shock and he's suddenly there for United, you'd imagine he's then back for potentially the Man City game at home. They even mentioned that. FA Cup draw at home, yeah, Man City. Obviously, the fact that they haven't scored yet at that stadium is a big thing. No Sonny against them, though, which is another big thing. He has been their chief tormentor in recent years, so whether that makes a difference. But, Spurs could be on a bit of a kind of momentum. They've got these new faces in. That lifts the camp as well. These tired legs, they'll have had that little break as well. I think Dejan Kulusevski said that they're going to get a little bit of a mini break themselves. They had that this weekend just gone. I think they're going to get that kind of again, a little bit of time off before that. So they should be nice and fresh for that game. Going to be a tough one. And then obviously you've got Brentford to finish the month straight after that as well. So, of course, Manor Solomon back as well. Should, you'd think, be back for the cup game as well. So, all very exciting. All very cool. And things looking up, other than those couple of injuries that we're still waiting, obviously, for them to come back from. But, right, I'm going to head off now. Like I say, just a quick update, just to talk about the excitement around the last 24 hours or so. Hopefully we'll get the photos with Radu Dragusin holding his Spurs shirt soon enough, whether it's late tonight or early in the morning. We'll all look forward to that one and look forward to see how he plays in a Tottenham shirt, not just holding it up. So there you go. Right, time to head off. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.